Hello, and thank you for watching this presentation by the American IRIS Society. Please support the organization by becoming a member. Go to irises.org and click on Join. Thank you.
I do know a lot of you that's on the call, but there are folks on the call that I don't know. So just a little bit of an introduction about myself. It's been a lifelong dream to be president of the American Iris Society. I have always grown irises. If you've seen the bulletin a couple of times ago, you saw that picture of me, and I'm about 5 years old, I guess, but I never remember not having the irises. So they are our hardiest perennial, no matter where you live. They will always be with us. I have lived in an apartment where I had them in just a few pots, all the way to now we have several acres of land that we enjoy growing the irises on. So as Gary mentioned, we wanted to have an introduction for our new AIS members, but also just a refamiliarization with our existing AIS members, just to make sure that you know everything that is going on in the American Iris Society world. So for new folks, our history spans over 100 years. A lot of you were familiar with, we were going to go back to New Jersey, New York area for 2020. That could not happen. So, but we have been happily in the American Iris Society for over 100 years. Our first president was John Wister. So those of you that have been in the iris world for a while know, particularly the Wister Medal, of which it was named for our first president. So, when I first started putting this together, I was asking friends, like, okay, what type of maybe pictures and so forth should I put in there? So I've got Heather to thank for this one. And it's just a great collage of whether it's bearded irises or beardless irises. So bearded irises, we know, go all the way from the little MDBs, the little tiny guys, all the way up to the tall bearded, like 38 to 40-inch stalks. And then the beardless irises, whether it's the Louisianas, the Spurias, Siberian, Japanese, and so forth. But we're very fortunate in the area where I live in Texas, that we can grow most anything. Some things are more temperamental, like the Japanese irises. I cannot grow the Pacific Coast, and that really is sad, because I think they are some of the prettiest colors. But hopefully you grow an assortment of the irises, but if not, hopefully, after this, you might want to decide, well, maybe I'll try some Louisianas, maybe I'll try some Siberians and Spurias. So a lot of you went to the national convention. There was 400 plus of us that were just so fortunate enough to see these beautiful gardens. They were at peak bloom. Anybody that was their first convention, we have high bars that we have set for the conventions in the future, because it was just, everything clicked. The buses clicked, the food was fabulous, and the gardens again were just at peak bloom. But if you haven't attended a national convention, normally there are 3 or 4 days of garden tours where you see people are taking notes, they're taking tons of pictures. There's educational programs, whether it's a workshop, maybe it's artistic, maybe it's the different sections, but all kinds of information. It's like irises overload for that week, because it's just any and everything you can imagine. Some of the conventions have shows, iris shows, cut stalks, that sort of thing, which is very interesting. A lot of the times we're going to have exhibits that you'd be interested in. But number 5, networking opportunities, incredible, because this is the only time a lot of us get to see our friends, is that once a year. And again, we're catching up over the last year of irises and our families and so forth, but those friendships will remain with you for many, many, many years. And then it all accumulates to the awards banquet at the very end, which is a wonderful experience. And I'm going to share just a little tidbit of what we're going to enhance that awards presentation this next year. But the Dykes Medal and so forth, all those awards are already announced, but this is the grand celebration of that with the hybridizers present and the awards and so forth. So we've had over 100 conventions and more to come in the future. So just a few shots. I'm sure there were, I don't know how many thousand pictures taken at Delane and Jane's farm, but beautiful irises again, everything was at peak bloom. And the irises are named. If you haven't been to a convention before, they all have the name of the iris or the seedling number, type of iris and the hybridizer and so forth. And you get a wonderful convention book that you can make notes in and so forth and decide what irises you want to order when you get home. So, believe it or not, I think it's less than 250 days, Andy, I think if I remember correctly, to the 2026 convention. And as I mentioned earlier, in 2020, we were going to go back to New Jersey, where it all began, and we didn't get to. So this is kind of a redo. Next year in May, mid-May, we are going back to New Jersey. We're going to the Marriott Hotel, which is right across the street, literally from the airport, which is real easy to get to. The rate for the room is $175, which, you know, that's pretty standard for room rates. And for the New Jersey, New York area, this is a fantastic rate. But again, there'll be section meetings. We're going to talk about sections in a few minutes. There'll be judges training. So Lorraine's getting all of the judges training and stuff ready for us. The boutique, wonderful boutique, silent auction. There'd be a live iris auction. And those of you that attended the convention this year got to share in that live iris auction up there. And then, of course, there are the tour gardens. So the registration is going to open very quickly. It's $369, and look what it includes. So there's 4 days of garden tours, breakfast and lunch on each one of those 4 days, and then the welcome banquet, the awards banquet. So a lot of your food is taken in consideration for this one fee of $369. So I've included the AIS convention website there, that if you want to go ahead and take a look at, and it's building all the time, more and more things are added to it. But again, you want to register early because this registration fee is good through April 15th, so about a month before the convention. So I mentioned the tour gardens. We're going to see the Brooklyn Botanical Garden in New York, Presby, which I've given you a picture of here, the Presby Memorial Iris Gardens in New Jersey, Rutgers Garden at the University of New Jersey. And then Gary Slagle's garden is also going to be on tour. So we're real excited to see Gary's garden also. And then the alternate tour before the convention will be the New York Botanical Garden. And if you have not seen that, it is spectacular. You will not be disappointed. And then in 2027, so we're 2 years out, the Oklahoma City Convention theme is Iris Heaven in 27. The hotel is the Embassy Suites Northwest, which if you're a daylily person, this is where the National Daylily Convention took place last year. And there are 9 gardens that's on tour, so they don't have the larger gardens like we will have this next year. So there'll be more gardens that are on tour. But each one of the conventions, while they're a little bit different, they're all very similar with the structure, with the section meetings and so forth. So speaking of sections, some of you are very aware of all the different sections of the American Iris Society, but I thought we'd just go through and just highlight those. And of course, Novelty Iris Society has to be first. That was just, I'm sure, my luck, right? Dear love of mine, the Novelty Irises, everybody knows that. If it's unique, different coloration, different form, and so forth, I love it. We have a website now, which we're real excited about. And we have a new president, which is Jean Richter. And Jean has worked very, very hard to get this website up and going for us. So whether it's broken color, it's space age, it's flatties, any and everything Novelty Irises. And then the Sporia Iris Society, a beardless, one of the beardless irises, you can see was organized in 1952, so been around a long time. And this you can see the different forms of the Sporia irises. I mentioned earlier the Pacific Coast, which I really, really wish I could grow, but the spectacular colors. I always compare that to a freshwater fish aquarium and a saltwater. The saltwater is always, the colors are so vivid. So anyway, very good section if you want to take a look at them. And then the Society for Siberian Irises, and the purple iris or blue iris on the very far right is a double. And I am learning more about the Siberians as I continue to enhance my collection. But I think I mentioned earlier that in Texas, they're happy. They pout the first year, but after that first year, then they just really take off. I've got them planted on the north side of the house, and they get morning sun, so they do very well for us. So I encourage you to, any of these societies, check out their website and consider joining them because they each have great publications. And then we have Cigna. A lot of you like to grow the species or species crosses. Again, the Sudatas cross grows very, very well for us here in the Texas area. And then the Society for Louisiana Irises. Again, I wanted to point out the different forms and different colorations on the Louisiana irises. A lot of people like the more tailored form, and then some like the very ruffled form that sometimes you have to give them a double take that you think, well, maybe that's a bearded iris because it's so ruffled and the petals are so large. But again, Louisianas have been around the society for a number of years. And then the Society for Japanese Irises. And I hope you got to attend the 2024 convention when it was in the Portland area. I had an opportunity to see Japanese irises grown of this magnitude, but they were spectacular. You know, a lot of the broken color things have been in the Japanese irises for many, many years. They're very large, the flatties, just terrific. And I wanted to show you that pain medal because I did think that that was a beautiful medal that the judges vote every year as part of their ballot. And this would be for the top Japanese iris. And then the Median Iris Society. And the Median Iris Society goes all the way from the little MTBs, Standard Dwarf, IBs, Border Beardeds, encompasses all of that. And then if you don't have a copy of Kevin Vaughn's book, which is Dwarf and Medium Bearded Irises, it's a great book. He's a great writer. Lots of beautiful illustrations in there, so consider that. And then, of course, the Median Iris Society has display gardens too. And then the Historic Iris Preservation Society, called HIPS, has a very extensive website. So give their website a look, consider joining them. They have an annual, a lot of these different sections have annual sales or annual auctions. Again, of which you can participate, particularly, you know, you need to be a member. And then the Reblooming Iris Society. Anita, I think Claire, you guys are involved with this. I picked out 3. You probably can do the same thing. You can name these off without even without even a description on there or a name. We've got Daughter of Stars on the left, Harvest of Memories, then Immortality is the white. But again, rebloomingiris.com is their website. And then we have 2 cooperating societies. One of those is the Tall Bearded Iris Society. They have several publications a year that they produce, lots of color pictures and so forth in Tall Talk. And again, I picked out Millennium Falcon, the broken color, and then everybody knows probably what that red iris is on the right, which is Royston Rubies, which won the Dykes Medal this year. The other cooperating society is the Aerial Society International. Again, their website is aerialsociety.org. They have a fantastic sale every year. So hopefully you participate in that sale, or that you might have an interest in next year. Because I mean, you really have to be online the minute that that opens to get some of these, because they're very rare, or there's only a limited quantity that's available. But you can see the three different, this is just an example of three different varieties. So what is really, really cool coming out is going to be the popularity poll. And you're familiar with probably the symposium, which was your top tall bearded irises. The paper symposium came with your bulletin. Well, now it's going to be an electronic, and it's going to be rebranded to the popularity poll. So beginning November 1st, so that's going to be coming up pretty quick. You're going to have the opportunity to vote in the popularity poll, and it's for all types of irises. So if it's Japanese, if it's standard dwarf, if it's Louisiana's, you're going to vote for your favorite 25 irises. And what's exciting about this is we'll be able to collect this information, understand what state that you garden in, and maybe what region that you're in, so we can get a better understanding, and we can go back to the public and say, these are the irises, specific to your area that we know that grow very well. So be looking for it. Linda is kind enough. She's going to get us a link on the American Iris Society website. I don't know if Wayne is on here, but Wayne gets our news and notes to us electronically. So it's going to be information there. So the poll closes January 31st. So it's just open November, December, and January. But we picked this time of the year because hopefully, fingers crossed, everybody's got all their irises planted by then, right? So it's going to be for those 3 months. And then what's cool about it is the results should be made available by the March 1st, because it's all in electronic format, and we think that it'll be easier for us to get that information out quicker to you. So we just had a meeting for the symposium / popularity poll a few minutes before this meeting. And I did ask the question, what if somebody doesn't have a computer, maybe somebody in your club, they don't do anything electronically, or they're just out of luck? And that's no, they are not just out of luck. The popularity poll, all their irises that they want to vote for can be given to their affiliate president, or they can be given to their RVP. And either one of those will load the information for your member, because we still have some folks that, do not like to do a lot of things electronically, and that's fine. We're going to take care of that. But we hope you like the popularity poll. So earlier, I heard a lot of conversation about the wiki and so forth, and I hope that if I were to ask for a show of hands, I would hope it would be 100%, because the wiki it grows every day and provides more and more information. If you're like me, I love to do research, and I love to know the parents and grandparents of maybe the irises I'm interested in buying or interested in growing. Want to know about the hybridizers. All kinds of information is out there. So number one, it's an iris database. Now we're requiring pictures of new introductions. And that's so important, because in my research going back, even to the 70s and 80s, there's not pictures of those irises. So, we just have a lot of trouble gathering those things if you don't get it in the very beginning. And Janice Shackelford is on here as our registrar. And again, Janice does a great job, quick turnaround. That's what I always hear from the hybridizers. They're excited about how fast the turnaround is. It's electronic and so forth, and they can make sure that they can get their irises registered quickly. Cultivar information, again, whether it's bloom, height, season, or whatever you're looking for, everything's out there. Search functionality. I just heard Anita talk earlier that she loves the wiki and all the different things, and it's easy to operate. And I will show you a screenshot in just a minute to give you some highlights. But hybridizer information, so all the irises that particular hybridizers have introduced. you can put pictures out there, which is really cool. And then again, I use it for the educational resources and historical records. And I just want to spend a few minutes on historical records. It is so important, whether it's affiliate newsletters or it's regional newsletters. Once those are gone, they're gone. And we're trying to assemble all those that we possibly can into the wiki and scan those so we will have them for our various regions and local clubs. So what I wanted to show you was search the iris database. So if you don't know if it's a tall bearded or if it's a Japanese iris, I just know the name, you can easily search here. Or if you know what type of iris, easily searchable here. If you want to go to the library that's got all kinds of publications and books and everything, newsletters and so forth, go to the library. And then down on the purple section, hybridizers, awards, and so forth. And again, I do a lot of research for particularly the hybridizers is what I'm interested in if I'm putting together presentations. And I did one of all the Region 22 hybridizers. I've done Region 17 hybridizers. And, it's just an abundance of information that you can find. And Heather is on here, and I want to thank Heather she's responsible for our blog for the AIS. You can see down there in the bottom, 2.8 million views. A lot of people looking, a lot of people interested. There's popular posts here, like Mr. Waters did post about growing irises from seed. We had some information about our winners here. How about growing irises in containers? Again, Mr. Waters had done that. So always remember the blog is a great source. And then the AIS Hager Dubois Memorial Iris Library. Probably not many of us have been to the library, right? It is in Oregon. It does exist. It has a physical location. But nowadays, what we're trying to do is we're trying to scan so many things in so everybody can enjoy it. So you don't have to plan time to go to the library on a certain day and so forth. If you're out in that area, any of us 24/7 can access the information because it's all scanned. So again, whether it's bulletins, newsletters, hybridizers records, those are what's so important. And we're working on getting Tom Bursine's hybridizing records because some of these, once, someone no longer is growing or whatever, and the family's trying to go through things, they don't even, know that that is important. And it's very important to the American Iris Society to have those hybridizers records. And then, so before you want to send anything to the library, if you want to just take note of that email address, and it's theaislibrary@gmail.com, real easy to remember. If you have things you want to donate to the library, just assemble a list, send it to the library committee. Let's make sure it's not something maybe we already have. We have a lot of bulletins. That's always the thing people think of first to donate, and we already have enough of those. But, whether it's metals and that sort of thing, maybe hybridizers records particularly, let us know, and the committee will go through those. But we'd love to have you consider donating to the library. And I want to talk a little bit about the foundation. 1971 is when it was established. Several different reasons for research, for interest in the plant, and then to sponsor some publications, some very important publications. And the first one was, the world of irises. So that was very important. But, think about it, or maybe estate planning, something like that. It's a 501c3. If you have a particular interest, it's the library you're really interested in, or electronic services or scholarship, that sort of thing. So the AIS Foundation has a website, and it's aisfoundation.org. So take a look at it, see if you have any interest. And then let me know or let Jill Bonino know. We can easily get you connected with the right sources. So the thing that we did this year, Andy's responsible for our membership drives and does a great job. And this year, what we decided to do was we would do a special $10. And that's for 4 of the printed publications. It's for the electronic membership. And I hope you've had an opportunity to see the new Basic Irish Culture book. Because if you remember several years ago, they were kind of small. They were very full of knowledge and good articles, but no color. So this is full of all kinds of color articles, whether it's pest or whether it's disease or whether it's like different types of viruses. A lot of time and effort went into that Basic Irish Culture book. So you get the booklet, you get 4 of the printed publications in electronic for $10. And that special ends very quickly. It ends November 1st. So if you're thinking about a birthday gift for someone, or maybe it's an award for your club or something like that, or maybe it's for yourself, if you're not a member of AIS, think about doing that. And it's easy to join. So when you go to the AIS website, there's a button there you can just click and join. So that's all my sales pitch, right? So I want to show you the award winners. They've already been announced, but I just wanted to kind of give you a collection of those. So I thought I'd go through these with you. And if you're not familiar, particularly with some of these award winners and the Dykes, especially the highest medal, it takes years. So it didn't just happen overnight. It takes, 10 plus years many times before it goes from notice being raised as a seedling, introduced all the way to winning these awards. So Royston Ruby started out early and won the seedling medal, the Zurbrigg Mahan Award in 2015. And it took 10 years all the way for its journey to get to the Dykes Medal winner. And I got to tell you, there are some very, very special things about being president of the American Iris Society. There's lots of things. And one of those things is I get to call the hybridizers that win these medals. And that's very, very special. It's special for them. It's special for me to be the first one to tell them. And a lot of you probably know Adam Cordrays, nice young man, family guy. He has, I think, 8 children. But when I called him, I said, "Are you by yourself?" And he said, "No, I'm walking to the house." And I said, "Okay, was your wife there and your kids at the house?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "Okay, well, put me on speakerphone when you get there. I've got something I need to tell you guys." So he told me when he got there, and I said, "Hey, I'm honored to tell you when the Dykes medal." Well, she's screaming, the kids are crying, he's he's happy. And I don't know, it was just incredible to hear a family that was so happy that Adam had won that award. So there are 3 Worcester medals, and those were won by 2 were won by Keith Keppel, and 1 was won by Thomas Johnson. Again, a great opportunity. I had to talk to Keith and also talk to Thomas and let them know that they had won these awards. Rick Tasco won with Frosty Spirit. This grows very, very well for us here. Again, it was a delight to be able to call Rick and let him know. Hugh Stout won the IB award for fried green tomatoes, and a lot of you know Hugh. And he was, I believe, Gary, wasn't he at your region? I think whenever I had called for Hugh and his phone wouldn't work, and somebody from the region had to loan him the phone so he could call me back so I could tell him. But
Yes,
anyway, this is a terrific iris.
he
I
was.
thought he was there.
He was at our regional meeting when you called him, and so we knew about that award before anybody else.
Well, it's a beautiful iris. And then Pixie Juan Kenobi was won by Mr. Bunnell for MTV. Again, he was a tough guy for me to get a hold of. We kept trading voicemails, but we finally got a hold of him. And then Tom Johnson had won for Blue Eyed Girl. And I love the name because I like an iris that the name fits with it. And I think this is just real pretty. And then look at this beard. This is an MDB named K that was won by Thomas Johnson. And then our very own, is Howie on the call today? Is he on the call tonight? Howie won the Clarence G. White Medal for, okay, how am I going to pronounce it, Gary? Chihuahua Night?
Chihuahua Night.
Chihuahua Night, okay. And then Michael Sutton won the William Moore Award for Eye of the Storm, which is very pretty. And I love this. Violet Constellation of Chad Harris. It's very pretty. And then this is a Sudata. It is Alabama Bluefin. And that thing grows like a weed for us. I mean, it is terrific. You'd always know it. I love the eyelashes on it. And that was the delight to reach out to that hybridizer. So the Sidney B. Mitchell medal was a tie with Ocean Roar and Wilder Ranch with Joe Keogh. And then Patrick O'Connor won the Mary Swords DeValion medal with Katrina Rising. And it's hard to believe. I think it's been, I don't know, 15 or 20 years since the Hurricane Katrina. This is the Morgan Wood medal for Siberian irises, Fiddles on Fire. Again, I like it when the name matches the iris. I think that's real pretty. And then Jim Hedgecock won the Spurrier Award for Wichita Lineman, the Eric Neese Award. The Payne medal went to Pink Playmate of Chad Harris. Very large, huge, beautiful Japanese iris. And then the Fred and Barbara Walther Cup goes to the iris that wins the most HM votes, which is honorable mention votes in any category. And that went to Cowboy Coffee of Michael Sutton, which is a border bearded. And we saw that in bloom at the convention, which is very pretty. The 2024 Dykes Medal, we remember that. It was an iris named Perry Dyer that was introduced by Paul Black. Very pretty arrowbred. And then Don't Doubt Dalton, which was Tom Bursing from Texas. And this is Broken Color Space Age Iris Don't Doubt Dalton. So many times I get asked, what type of irises grow in my area? And sometimes we have the misconception that, well, Louisiana irises, I don't have a pond, I don't have a lake, I don't have any way to have them wet all the time. And they don't have to be. They may prefer a little bit wetter conditions than some of the others, but they grow very well, for instance, here in Texas. As do the Sudatas grow very well. Some are more temperamental. But, look around at particularly your local iris sales. I think the popularity poll would be a big help too, to let our public know what grows very, very well. And you can see those top irises growing are arrowbreds, and they're a more of an arid climate type iris. So I always get the question of what should I do now for a fantastic iris bloom in the spring? And I always tell people right now is when it begins. So that winter of the show that you're going to have in the spring, it starts now. So you've already decided what irises that you wanted to buy. And, read those descriptions. If it says it's well branched, if it says, well, it's going to probably bloom mid-season or something. Look for those tendencies whenever you're selecting an iris for maybe a potential iris you want to take to the show. Visit gardens. So you've already done that this season. So you've ordered those irises are arriving. And I got to tell you, when I get my irises from any of these hybridizers, it's like Christmas. Because what do? They always give you extras, right? Like, we don't have enough irises. Let's give you more irises. But it is like Christmas because, it's just fun to see what you got and to see those rhizomes. So anytime when you're selecting the rhizomes, just make sure that, they're good size, they look healthy, the foliage looks healthy and everything. All those beautiful roots that you see here, we're just going to use those roots to anchor that iris because they're going to die off and the new roots are going to form. But you've got to have something to anchor that in the ground. And then make sure your soil is like some good sandy loam. I know we used to do a combo pack here, compost, wheat straw manure, and sandy loam, which was very, very healthy. And then avoid hot fertilizer. And I think you know what I'm talking about with hot fertilizer, like chicken manure and that sort of thing, because you don't want it to burn your irises. And don't plant them too deep. Don't plant them too shallow. In Texas, we don't have all that cold. So, we're planting half of that rhizome above the soil. And this poor iris at the top, that thing needed to be divided a couple of years ago, looks like. So you can see where the bloom stalks were, but we're going to need to get that divided, save what you can. Some of it, maybe that old mother rhizome, which is right here in the middle. If it doesn't have increases coming off to the side, maybe we're just going to go ahead and discard that. But we need to get that divided. And then we fertilize in the spring and fall. Typically, if you can still find 888 or 10-10-10, anything that's constant like that is good fertilizer to get you going. And again, when you're fertilizing, if you're broadcasting, be really, really careful with that because you don't want that fertilizer to go down into the leaves. Because when that happens, if you've got rain and it's still pretty warm, you've got the higher humidity, particularly in the spring, then you just don't want to encourage rot. And that could. So if you can, in this picture here, sprinkle around the base of the plant, which is a lot better than broadcasting. And then again, time for planting. Some of us on the call earlier were saying, we could plant all the way November, December, you don't get as good a bloom, but depending on your climate, whether further north you are, it may already be too late to do any more transplanting. Bearded irises, we know, do not like wet feet, right? So overwatering of irises is a common mistake. Water them when you're putting them in, but then just kind of let them be. Because bearded irises, again, they don't want to be kept wet. I always get the question about sunshine, and I laugh when I use this picture. This is a picture of the Clark Gardens in Mineral Wells, my husband's uncle's garden that was on tour several times for prior conventions, and they grow them in the pasture. That's literally in the pasture. Those are mesquite trees in the back, under full Texas sun that can get very, very hot, and they do well in that type of an environment. So if you can't do full sun, at least 6 hours of sun. Now, the one thing being in hot Texas we don't have is the iris borer so far. Everything changes in time, but those are some of the most common type pests that we have. In the middle, you'll see fungal leaf spot. A lot of people spray for the fungal leaf spot. We only get it in the spring when we get lots of rain. And then as the summer progresses and new foliage comes on, that goes away. So I don't get concerned about that. But I do get concerned about the rot, bacterial rot, because we've all probably experienced that to some degree. But whether it's Comet, it's Zud, it's whatever that you're using, whatever is working for you, continue doing that. But you've got to clean out that dead tissue. That's what you need to focus on, is get rid of that dead tissue. If you decide to mulch, again, the top picture is the Clark Gardens. They use their own mulch that they use from down trees and stuff like that, but don't put it around the base of the plant. So in that bottom left, you can see where the mulch is around it, but there's nothing right up against that plant. So the last thing I wanted to talk to you about, so if you're on Facebook, if you're on any social media sites, if even Amazon, if you ever looked at irises on Amazon, you get some crazy things out there. So I just had to share this because I thought this was so funny, and a couple of people had emailed me about some of these typical irises. They wanted to buy them. And they've got spots on them. They're unusual colors. They're unusual forms. They've got all these things, wild things going. But I had to laugh about Garden Stars seeds. They have 2.9 people that, I guess follow them. And it says new for 2025. So rare iris bulbs. Guys, they don't look like this. They don't look like this. I mean, many a hybridizer is probably trying to work toward this at some point, but just be really careful. Buy from reputable growers. We all know who those are. And then from your local sales. Those are the best ones to buy from because you already know that they're acclimated to your particular environment. So buyer beware when you see some things like this. And this was another one I just had to laugh about because look in the bottom left-hand corner. I bet you every hybridizer is trying for that, but those colorations don't exist. The Siberian in the middle, that doesn't exist. Maybe some over there on the far right, a couple of them you could probably sort of identify, maybe particularly the one in the middle, this yellow with some, here this looks like maybe a Keith Keppel, maybe a couple of them I've seen like this. Maybe this looks like maybe one of the Shriners, sort of. But these colors have all been enhanced. They're not those colors. So again, buy local, buy from reputable hybridizers that you know what you're going to get. So again, these are two more pictures that I just had to share with you because I think the one on the left with all the polka dots, I did have several people ask me, where can I possibly get that iris? Well, it's a novelty iris to me, so you would figure if it's out there, I would have gotten it. But again, we're not there yet. So I wanted to thank you for particularly being a member of the American Iris Society. We've been around a long time. We want to be around a lot longer. We need youth. We need all of us. So whether we're preserving the history, we love when in the springtime when they're blooming. We love in the fall when we're getting some rebloom. But it's important that we all continue to grow and develop our irises. So this picture was taken at the National Convention. I think it was in Tina's garden. Those of you that know me already know how to get in touch with me, but if you don't, I'm easily found. So you're welcome to call me, text me, email me. I'd love to hear from you. Anything that you've got on your mind. But again, we just wanted to say thank you for being members of the American Iris Society.